was trying was trying to find herself, and yet was still feeling restricted and confined by what the doctors were saying, particularly that element in Paris, the abuse when she's beaten up. It was interesting, again, researching the part. I had no idea how rife discrimination, but also violence against trans people is, particularly for trans women of colour. And it's always, it was a brutal part of the film, but it felt, I think I probably found that sort of middle stage when she's not quite comfortable in her skin yet. That was probably the most tricky for me.
And I think in one way it's the transition period for my character as well, that thing of, I admire Gerda for being able, you know, that she's able to foresee and see the true Lily quite early on, somewhere deep down there. But then there's this very, you know, heartbreaking scene where she spells out, I just right now want my husband back. And I thought the complexity in saying that, and with Gerda, how I, you know, imagine, you know, the second after she said it, almost, it's a scene where it's a lot of guilt being played out by two people who are just above everything want to connect. And that thing of, she knows that the change, I mean, it's inevitable. I mean, she's standing in front of the person who's finally becoming its true self, which is her highest wish. And it's just, you know, the way of her trying to find words of explaining, you know, her fear of losing the strongest connection she has with her loved one and her partner. And that was a scene that really, you know, jumped off on the page when I read it. And that was tough to explain, because in the end, I mean, this is a story being told about a journey they do when they don't really have any reference of how to put words on things, how to explain it, and yet they were so strong in, you know, in believing and trusting the feelings that they had inside, and above all, in the end, wanting to trust each other and support each other.
For me, I was thinking of the final scene. We were actually up a mountain in a fjord in Norway, and I knew it had this spectacular view. And we arrived to discover that we could basically see about 10 yards, and we could have basically not even left London. It would have looked the same. And I've been haunted for months by this idea of being up this mountain and the wind not being strong enough and the scarf sort of falling to the ground. That wasn't the problem. I mean, the scarf rocketed to about, you know, half a kilometre in the air, you know, in seconds. And basically it was about a window of 1 hour when there was any sun and any visibility where we had to do the entire scene. And halfway through that hour, Matthias took me aside and said, I think you need to stop, because Alicia is basically at frostbite level cold. And I was thinking, well, I've only got an hour, but I went and hugged her and found that she was like an icicle. And what's extraordinary is that when you look at that final scene, in the middle of capturing that emotion of saying farewell to Lily, Alicia was kind of in a near frostbitten state, and we were trying to capture the only hour of visibility.
Okay, thank you so much for bringing the film here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.